There we go. Hi, boys! Broosh! Friday! Fuck yeah! Friday! Who remembers this shirt? Who remembers this shirt? It's old. It's old as shit. This is like the oldest shirt in fucking history. I love it. I absolutely love it. This is the original Mike Preach Wow t-shirt. It is the one. I want it. I want it. Oh, there we go. I got some old schoolers who fucking remember this shirt. Awesome. Friday. Everything's done with. Oh, put down your hands. Take your shoes off. Watch some X Factor. No, don't do that. Stop perpetuating the X Factor cycle. Don't do it. Bad idea. Bad move. Don't do that. Don't buy. What did TB release? I watched the TB video today. It was fucking hilarious. Medal of Honor Warfighter? Don't buy that either. Oh my god. I couldn't believe it when he kept dying. Just walking forwards down a path nonetheless. No, wrong. You can't do that. Don't do it. You must laze it from here. I thought it was fucking hilarious. Okay. Friday. Everything is done with. It's all good. Ooh. 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 Do you like what I did with this Brofist? It's kind of in the way of my hand. Is it this one? Yeah. It's like over the monitor, like it's on the screen. Yeah? Do you like that? A little bit of special effects for you there. A little bit of low-tech special effects going on. All very cool. All very cool. So, Genji, who is our forum webmaster dude, it is your final day to submit your transmogs on the website, preachgaming.com, to be the transmog of the week, selected by him. Maybe there'll be a prize, maybe there won't. Let's see what we can afford this month. We'll see what we can afford this week. See if we can get something out to the winner. So it's your final day to submit that. I think next week we're doing some focusing on some guys' YouTube videos and stuff like that. So it's all pretty good. Genji's taking good charge of the website. He's doing all this stuff. So that's pretty cool. Friday's here. I've had a busy day. I've just released a video, which some will find maybe good. Some will find controversial. I don't mind. It's just the way I felt. Hell, it's my channel. If I feel a certain way, I will release a video describing that. I played the Paladin. Yeah. I was doing all the Paladin guides for you guys. It's taken me a couple of days to get through them because I just was unhappy with everything I produced, which is really irritating when you're trying to do a lot of guides. I was just generally pissed off with everything I was doing. And then I realized it was because of the class. It was the class that was really making me struggle to do what I do, which is educate and sort of entertain you. I was just not entertained by the Paladin in any way, shape or form. And it's okay for me to be not entertained by aspect, like sub on a rogue. I just don't like sub. I just don't like the way it plays, the way it feels, the way it handles. I don't like it. I don't enjoy it. I don't particularly enjoy the enhancement shaman, as many as you know. I just don't like the way it feels. It's clunky. It's not smooth. It doesn't flow. I don't like that. I like things that make sense and synergize well together. And none of the Paladins do that. All three specs felt, lame, busted ass, broken, old. It felt like the old questing in vanilla. Who remembers questing in vanilla? What a fucking atrocity that was. My God. And then they changed it and made it better. We've gone backwards with the Paladin. They've gone fucking backwards with the way this works. And it's... You look at things like... It didn't help that I did the DK before the Paladin. That's for damn sure. Really didn't help that I did that. But still, it should not be in this condition. It should not be in that level of... That state that it's in. DK is wonderfully designed. Fire Mage is wonderfully designed. I don't care if Arcane is just as good or better. But... You know, it doesn't matter to me. The playstyle works. Frost works. Shadow Priests work. Holy Priests work. It's just the output wasn't there. I didn't mind playing the Holy Priest. I loved it. I very much enjoyed playing the Holy Priest. Just the output wasn't there. And in raids, it just fell apart completely. Ugh. But the Paladins, my God, all three specs. Jesus. Awful. Awful design. Awful design. It needs so much rethinking. Ret Paladins, my God. I am God! I am the Lord of DPS. Now I'll just wait for my cooldowns to come back. And it should be fine. Very interesting. And Holy just flat out boring. That even has the numbers. Priest couldn't say that. Holy just boring. Light of Dawn. Light of Dawn. Okay. Holy Radiance. Oh, terrible. I played Protection. And then to come across that Protection is straight up needing DPS gear. I had to do the talent video today where I explained to potential tanks or current tanks that you need DPS gear. That is it made me feel ill to do that. Oh, you got dodge and parry gear? You don't want that. You don't want the dodge and parry gear. That's so stupid. It's just so stupid. People argued with me when I said that feral druid cats should not have the caster farm be their main source of DPS. They were like, it's fine. I'm like, it's not fine. It is not fine when you play a melee class and your best source of DPS is casting fucking spells. That is not fine. It's never fine. Think for a second about what you're doing. You are a feral cat. Why would you be casting fucking wrath? Idiocy. Absolute idiocy. And yeah, we need DPS gear as paladins. It's just common sense goes, whoa, 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 whoa. That ain't right. Something's wrong here. That's not how it was intentionally designed. And I'm sure Blizzard's going, we never really considered that just stacking DPS stuff as a tank would actually be more effective. That's not right. So I'm sure it's going to be changed. It's just not right, is it? You know, common sense says that isn't correct. It's not the way it should be. It's just so stupid that it works that way. Oh yeah, you can rock the DPS and have the best mitigation. That's cool, isn't it? Yeah, right. No. So it's going to be a relatively longer daily than normal. Hopefully. It depends on when my wonderful fiancée returns. I was finishing a story that has gone for 3 days. So it's like 2.5 hours of storytelling by me. And I also have your submissions of drama stories for today. Yes, we do. We have some tasty drama stories for you guys as well. Fridays, in general, is when I take off my help you guys out hat or try and get you guys to be nicer people to other players hat and tend to ignore elitist hats. I take all those masks and hat off and we explain that some people are just assholes. Yes, they are. And you can't help them. You can't do anything with them. And we mock them for it today. And that's what today's show is all about. I actually said something today that I thought was quite profound. I don't tend to say anything that I think is profound ever. But I was talking to Emma about something to do with a house. That is, a member of our family has a house, which is a council property, which means he rents it from the state. The state has a number of properties and they rent them relatively cheap to people who can't afford to buy their own homes, etc. And his mother recently died and the house is in her name. The rules of law suggest that he has to move out because it's a 2-bedroomed house. As a single man, he does not require a 2-bedroom house, and as the house is owned by the state, there are plenty of families, etc. out there who need 2-bedroom houses. There are also a questionable amount of families who produce extraordinary amount of children simply to acquire more things from the state. We call this the welfare problem that occurs very readily across the UK and most first world countries, in fact, who have supplied the state and the people with more than they need. So this guy's in a tricky situation. He was born in this house. He's now, I think, 57 or maybe even 60. He obviously doesn't want to move. He's been there for 60 years. He's always paid the rent and so on and so forth. And someone at the council politely forgot to process the paperwork about him having to move out. And Emma was baffled by this. And I said, profoundly, not everybody is an asshole. Not everybody a household. It would be wrong, in my opinion. He's now getting people who move in. He's got a girlfriend coming and she has a child and stuff. So it's not as if this room is going to waste and he's leeching from the States. It would have been corrected rather quickly. The thing is, not everybody is an asshole. And it's very difficult in our cynical lives to believe such a thing exists as a decent person. As somebody who weighs up a situation, not only just on the rules, but also on its merits, and then decides accordingly. It's profound. Not everybody is an asshole. Not everybody wants to screw you over. Sure, there are many bitter, twisted people. Many of those people who were bullied at school by the big boys, and now the big boy has to come and ask them for help, and they go, "Ha! I shit on you from a great height." That of course does occur. But no, not everybody is an asshole. I'm glad to say he's going to get to keep the house and move his girlfriend in and her son and have a merry old time in the house he was born in, which is marvellous in my opinion. Okay, yeah, except for Ghost. I know, it's weird, isn't it? Everyone's like, what, not everybody's an asshole? No, some people are really nice people. We even spoke about them in 2 days ago, about the guy who helped me out with my enchant. He was like just a nice guy, and that was all very cool. So I got plenty of Brofist today. I even have more, but there's just not enough room in my background to put them without just overshadowing me. I would be ahead in the middle. So we've got plenty of Brofist to keep us going through a couple of days next week, but keep sending them. Keep sending them. Let's get them all on there. So, where were we yesterday? I was on to my 3rd time that I had tried to give myself a reason to quit World of Warcraft. I was of the opinion, and nobody so far has disagreed with me, is when you want to leave a game like World of Warcraft, I'm sorry, this chair is massively uncomfortable, is that you try and find a way that forces you to leave, to give you an excuse or reason why you left, that other than I just gave up on my account. Not that there's anything wrong with that. People have a great difficulty telling it like it is. I'm done with WoW for a while. I'm taking a break. I often find this comes in when people need a day off from work. People are notorious for lying when they need a day off work. I'm not talking about slackers who just can't be asked going to work. Fuck you guys. Get to work. I'm talking about when you need a day off work for whatever. Life gets in the way. Life does get in the way. And people feel the need to come up with some crazy reason why they need a day off work. My grandma died. I'm dying of illness. I will be in tomorrow. As an employer who has had people work under me considerably for the last few years, people have often called me to need a day off work. And they go, I'm really ill, I can't come in. And I go with this one simple question that proves you are a lying motherfucker. Will you be in tomorrow? Yes. Really? You have a very specific, debilitating illness that will definitely be cured by tomorrow morning. So don't worry about it. Will you be in tomorrow? Yes. Really? I'm glad you have that foresight. Maybe you can predict the lottery numbers for me as well, considering you can now predict the path and time that an illness will take you to cure. You're, of course, Wolverine, and you have the miracle cure within your body. But other than that, it's because you actually need to do some shit. Sometimes you need a day to get stuff done, important stuff. Perhaps you're getting a new house. You need a day to sort the paperwork out, visit the bank, have a meeting at the bank, and so on and so forth. Clever people book this for one day, and honest people go to work and say, I need a day off in 4 weeks, because you know this is happening, to do some stuff. Okay, most employers are okay with that. Most people in the world understand that shit happens, okay? Most people are aware of that. The most notice you give, the better. And plus, you will come across as a naturally honest guy, right? Which is very rare in work. Instead of waiting until the last minute and be like, I need tomorrow off work. Well, didn't you tell me last week you were going to this football game / concert / fucking wank fest? Yeah, why haven't you booked it off? I don't know, I forgot. I didn't want to. I haven't got a reason to take work off. I will call in sick. I will call in sick. Why? And then you have to come up with this ridiculous reason. And people feel very much comforted when they have a reason for doing something that isn't just the fact that it needs doing. Right? Does this make sense? Are you following me so far? So people can't be happy with phoning in and saying, something's come up, I really need the day off work. That apparently, in your own mind, is not a genuine reason to take off work. On the other end of the phone, the guy's probably thinking, it's pretty honest, the guy needs a day off. He can have a day off, especially if it's not a majorly busy time. Obviously, taking a day off from work when it's the busiest period ever is just a twat thing to do. It is, unless someone, genuinely died. Most people will understand. But Emma's notorious for this. If she needs a day off work for something important, like we have to go and do something, and we've known about it for a while, she will call in sick. And then she thinks, what can I say to get myself out of work? My answer is you don't actually have to tell them anything. If they push it, then you have to tell them something. But you don't actually have to tell anybody anything about your personal life. It's a very difficult thing for people to understand. Most people on the other end of the phone don't give a shit why you're not coming in. They care that you're not in. Right, I need to deal with stuff. Get off the phone. If you're not coming in, fine. I need to sort it out. Deal, okay? Very easy. They just want to be let known. Don't phone in 20 minutes past 9 a.m. in the morning and say, I'm really ill, I can't come to work. That is bad, okay? And you don't need to come up with some ridiculous excuse to get off work. You can call in and say, look, I've got stuff to do. Unless you're a lying bastard. I'm not applying this to people who are just lying bastards who are in bed and like, I can't be arsed going to work today. That's just being a lazy bastard. That's totally different. But if you have a genuine reason to be off work, you can call in. So relating this back to WoW, is we're in the same boat, and I was in the same position. I was looking for reasons to leave. For some reason, I didn't feel it was okay to just leave the game. Like, I've had enough now, guys. It's really getting me down. I'm going to take a break, or I'm just going to leave the game for a while. Maybe I'll come back, maybe I won't. People like to make these huge, dramatic leaving threads, don't they? Like, they explain how everybody is against them. There's things going on in their life. I'm starting college and university in September. I just don't think I've got enough time. And they're trying to justify it to themselves. Not to you guys. They're trying to justify it to themselves. And ultimately, no one gives a shit. You're leaving the game. No one cares. No one gives a fuck, really, about your personal problems in work. Everybody's got their own problems, right? People who spend their entire day telling you about their fucking problems can kiss my ass. I don't give a shit. I really don't. I work with you. We're not best friends. Do you understand? I'm not here to really help you out. Might sound cold-hearted, but I just cannot be asked listening to other people's problems all the time. I really don't care. As a guild master, I also didn't care. People like to... As a guild master, some of you may have been guild masters at one point or another. You've probably encountered people who start telling you really personal shit about their own lives and how you should deal with it. As if being a guild master has somehow promoted you to a level of wisdom that can only be found in the game. I must speak to my guild master. I must travel to the top of the cave where he sits by a fire and meditates upon the issues of the day, and maybe he can give me the answer. I had all sorts of people whispering about my brother is doing this, and my family has been in a car crash, and I won't be able to raid tonight. I'm like, what? Right, you're not raiding tonight. I get it, okay? I don't need a fucking reason. I really don't need the reason. I need to get somebody else. That's it. That's all I need to know. You're not raiding tonight? Okay, that's fine. Not everybody can raid every single night. I get it, okay? The world happens. It's okay. You don't need to be a big fucking drama queen about it. The best people who are fake DC, you know these people who fake DC? They like join the raid and then disconnect, like just as the raid's about to start. And then they're like, I've even had a guy come on Ventrilo with like... And people are like, oh, he's lagging. He's lagging. I'm like, no, he's not fucking lagging. I know what lag sounds like. And then they disconnect from the server. Get away from it. If you need a night off, you need a night off. I prefer you to tell me earlier rather than just disconnect after we filled the raid, right? Got it? Good. So I was a member from where we left off yesterday of a guild on Sylvanas, which is where I still am today, called Kill Count Lost. The world's 70th guild when I joined them. And this was the time when I changed from being a major asshole, really, to being really humble. Because I met, as you guys have probably remember, a tank who humbled me. He was extremely good. A tanking god. Still the best tank to this day I've ever met. And he was of the belief that I was the best tank he'd ever met. As such, a brilliant friendship and competition occurred between both of us to outdo each other. Not easy to do in a tanking environment, but it kind of was more prevalent during the Burning Crusade, for sure. And he generally thought I was better than him, and I thought he was better than me. So we combated backwards and forwards all the time to improve anything. Who's doing the most threat per second? Who can get through this dungeon the fastest? And he would send me times, like, oh, I just did a 5-man, and we did it in 6 minutes or something. And I was like, you did it in 6 minutes? And then I would go in with a group later and try and beat it. All these kind of things used to go on, and we would spend probably 2-3 hours discussing mechanics of every single ability of the warrior class. Great times, great nerd fest anyway. And towards Wrath of the Lich King, we prepared for a lot of things. We knew, because we weren't stupid, that our tank synergy was terrible. We were 2 prot warriors, and 1 DK by the name of Ghost, and 1 prot paladin who went by the name of Two-Face. Two-Face was a good player, by the way. He was okay. He wasn't the best tank, but he was okay, and he was a prot paladin. Didn't need to be a great player. Am I right? Am I right? Do you know what I mean? So, Two-Face and Erebus were going to be the primary tanks. Two-Face had been a healer throughout most of the Burning Crusade, in fact all of it I believe, and now he wanted to be a tank. And so it was decided that they would be tanks. And I don't know if Erebus was happy by this or pissed off, but he tended not to show his emotions. But he didn't want me to be a full DPSer. He was kind of preparing in many ways like Erebus did. He used to look 6 months in the future to what things might happen. So Two-Face may not enjoy tanking, but we definitely had a bad synergy with two prot warriors. And neither of us really wanted to give up the warrior position. Ultimately, as Wrath of the Lich King approached, we stuck with two warriors, a Paladin and a DK, which was Ghost, a Blood DK. And we started raiding. And everything went kind of well. We got Realm second behind Method, Naxxramas, the Immortal. We got that Realm second as well, just before Enraged Revolution. In fact, we got the Immortal about 15 minutes before the next closest guild, which was called Enraged Revolution, which was kind of cool because we always had a running competition between us and them. Luckily, fair play to them. They're the ones that outlasted us and are still raiding today. And the disappointment in their faces is they were about to pull Kel'Thuzad and we screamed we had just gotten the Immortal. I think I was the first one to announce it. So things were going kind of cool. And it was kind of okay until Sartharion 3 Drakes, 10-man. Sartharion 3 Drakes, 10-man, really hit home as to how stupidly designed an encounter could be and how bad for us having two warrior tanks was. Very, very bad. It was a situation that we hadn't really prepared for, is that warrior tanks would be vastly inferior on a particular encounter compared to feral druids, due to just straight up how much HP a feral druid could get through their scaling. So we had a discussion. One of us had to go. Erebus has 0 alts. He's played since vanilla. He has 0 alts. The closest he's ever gotten to an alt was something he shamefully showed me when he travelled from Greece to here and stayed with me at my home. That's how close we were. We were very good friends and still are to this day. So we raided together in my room. I set him up a separate PC and he flew over from Greece and he spent some time with me. And we had a great time. It was really good. Very nerdy conversations those evenings, let me tell you. And so we were raiding Naxxramas, Malagos, Sartharion, that kind of thing. And we killed Sartharion 25 3 Drakes without much difficulty. I was Tauren. Tauren, of course, had the big HP buff. He was undead. And therefore, I tanked Sartharion. I just about geared my character to be able to cope with the flame breaths on Sartharion. However, it's then revealed by Method that Sartharion 10-man was actually more difficult. So the race was then on between us and Enraged Revolution, who would get the next Sartharion 3 Drakes 10-man. Method had already got it world first. We couldn't do it. We really couldn't do it. We had Erebus in. Ghost was still learning the ropes a little bit about Blood DK. Wasn't doing badly, but was still learning a little bit about how to abuse the DK. It's still a new class in Wrath of the Lich King. Ghost hadn't really been a tank before, so he was still a ways behind knowledge-wise and maybe the advanced stuff of tanking that me and Erebus were. Two-Face was generally very well designed as a prop paladin to deal with all the ads and all the other stuff going on with the Drakes. So we were then left with who was going to tank Sartharion, which was one of the warriors. We couldn't survive, no matter what. I was the best choice as a Tauren warrior with the extra HP. I had also modified my gear and enchants to have as much stamina as humanly possible, and magical meta gems and stuff like that, as best as I could do. I could not survive the Flame Breath when it had Vesperon's buff on it. I'm getting a bit detailed, but some guys will know what I'm talking about. I couldn't survive, and it was very frustrating, and Enraged Revolution did in fact get the first kill, because they had a Feral Druid. And every single guild who had ever killed that fight had used a Feral Druid in order to tank Sartharion. That was because Feral Druids had outrageous amounts of HP. Ridiculous amounts of HP. So it was decided that one of us had to go. And Erebus, having 0 alts, already experienced with alts. It is shameful, as I said, when he came over to England, I saw his account. And I said, what the hell was that? He had a level 30 mage. That is the closest he'd ever come to capping an alt. So it was decided I would do it. We did toss a coin, but it was kind of always going to be me anyway. So I would re-roll Feral Druid. And as I was the dedicated raider at the time, I managed to cap a Feral Druid with 0 heirloom gear in 4 days. That is before any of the buffs to XP, gains, levels, anything like that, including all of the leveling in the Burning Crusade. It was something that a good friend of mine now, who is very, very, very good at this game, called me a GM. He said, you must have used a GM hack to do that. I didn't. I just didn't sleep. I just totally turbo nerded. I really fucking turbo nerded. I don't know how I did it. I don't think I could. I could maybe do it again now, maybe. But I'd have to push myself much harder than I did then. I remember I didn't really sleep for 4 days. And when I capped, I went and ran heroics. Like 4 or 5 heroics before I slept. Because I thought, I think I ran Violet Hold. There was a feral staff in there. I think we had raiding the next day. And so I needed to get geared. I knew if I went to sleep, I would sleep for a long time. So then we ran heroics. Immediately after I capped, I was dragged through heroics. But Erebus was waiting. He had a full team of people. And he was whispering me all the time, saying, now? Is it now? Is it now? I'm like, dude, I need like 1 more bar of XP. And then when it happened, he was like, invites me. Straight, summons me straight there. I didn't do anything. I still had my green stuff. And he ran me through 4 or 5 heroics. Pretty scary stuff. That was how intense we took it. We were going for serious competition in the raiding world. We wanted that top 50 spot. So we took it very seriously. And Erebus always took the game very, very seriously. So I was a feral druid, lo and behold, wearing, I can't remember the name, maybe one of you can remember it. There was a set that was leather and it was frost resistance gear. I kind of want to say Icebane gear. I could be wrong. But Erebus had crafted everything for me. So I essentially had a shitload of gear when I capped. I had more HP in my greens and this Icebane set than Erebus would achieve throughout all of the Burning Crusade. It was outrageous. I forget the specific numbers, but I had so much HP, it was retarded. Absolutely retarded. And we were laughing at this mechanic. So I then went into Sartharion 3 Drakes. I had 0 dodge, pretty much, but I just had a shitload of HP. We killed it in 3 tries. We killed it in 3 tries. It was no problem whatsoever. Once I could survive these things, we were back on track. And now we had 1 of every tank. Ghost was coming along as a good tank. And we were doing pretty well. Ulduar rolls around. And this is when things took a sour turn. So Ulduar rolls around, and Two-Face and Erebus are essentially the main tanks. Ghosty, etc. and me, I was essentially DPS and backup tank, because Feral Druids could do that very, very effectively during the Burning Crusade, through Wrath of the Lich King. We could quite easily taunt a boss and survive for an extended period of time. I have the Razor Scale kill, which we got round first, I believe. We got round first Razor Scale, and in that fight, Erebus dies, and I taunt it and tank it for the remainder of the fight, and I was DPS through that encounter. So I was DPS for the majority of the time. Luckily for us, Feral Druids were massively overpowered at the beginning of Ulduar. Stupidly overpowered. I think the average DPS of some people was about, I want to say 5k, something like that. 5k, maybe 6k DPS for a decent DPS to them. I could be wrong on those numbers. But relatively speaking, I was doing around 7 to 8k DPS on my own. The damage meter would be like this with me. Everybody else would be in a nice row behind. Feral Druids were very broken during Ulduar. So, I was quite happy with my role. Until it dawns on me, like we discussed yesterday, that if after a couple of months of doing this, I really didn't enjoy being a druid. I didn't. I could feel it in my bones. I used the excuse of being a best raider, or being very prepared, is that I also collected a full set of Moon King gear, and gemmed and enchanted it, and a full set of Resto gear. And the reason I did this secretly is I was desperately hoping there was a time when a healer hadn't shown up, or there would be a ranged beneficial fight, and I would change specs. I just completely didn't want to be a Feral Druid anymore. I was doing more DPS than the entire raid by a long way, and I hated it. I was bored to fucking tears. Like I said in most of my videos, I don't really care about the results. I really do not care about the results. DPS will be balanced eventually by Blizz. That's not my concern. What bothers me is the playstyle. That's what bothers me. I want a good playstyle and the results will follow after. So I was starting to get very fed up. Mimmer on hard mode rolls around, or Mimmer on normal mode I should say, and it was better for me to be a Moonkin, thank God. So I put massive effort into being a very, very good Moonkin, and I was alright. Yogg-Saron was the same, was a very good Moonkin. Then we started doing the hard modes. I played Moonkin for the majority of the time. Although Feral was better, we needed that buff. which was the Moonkin buff. I think it was the haste or the crits for spellcasters. We didn't have an elemental shaman, so whichever elemental shamans and Moonkins brought the same buff in Wrath of the Lich King. I forget which one it was. It was either haste or it was crits for casters. And therefore, I was like, well, I'll be Moonkin. I'll bring this buff. So it was... Oh, well, everyone's... There's a competition going on in the chat as to which one is correct. So I stayed as pretty much Moonkin throughout most of Ulduar. And then the hard modes. Then the worst thing in the world happened. We recruited 2 elemental shamans at the same day. One was called Goku Fan. Some of you will know what that means. Very bad. The other one was called Kopili. Doesn't mean anything as far as I know. These would turn out to be the worst players we had ever recruited to kill count lost. Ever. And we had recruited some bad players over the time. They were always kicked. Always kicked. We were never struggling for players. We were the second best guild on the realm, and the other guild ahead of us was a world first contender. So there was a huge margin between us. These would be literally the worst players we had ever encountered. Around the same time, we killed Hodir hard mode, Thorim hard mode, and so on and so forth. And then we hit Freya 3 it was called. Because you kept the 3 elders alive. Freya 3 elders. It was called Knock on Wood. Was what the achievement was called. To get the hard mode to unlock Algalon. And then Mimiron would come next. We couldn't do it as a guild. We were struggling badly. We'd lost some good players along the path to get to Freya 3. We had always kind of coped. But we still could not get this fight under control. We started to... That fight really exposed very bad players. Or not very bad players, but average to good players who couldn't really cope under pressure. One of the big things about Freya 3 was that she did an AoE silence. Our healers just could not handle getting interrupted all the time. They just couldn't handle it. They were always casting pretty much when this happened. The other thing that needed to happen was Freya 3 spawns a quite large number of plants that explode. The way you deal with these adds perfectly is to have the main tank AoE taunt, which drags all the adds together, and then you have an elemental shaman root the adds in place. The tank pulls the boss out, and everybody AoEs them down on top of one another, and nobody gets hurt by the explosion. You might get 1 or 2 stragglers, but that's not too dangerous. Could we get our elemental shaman recruits to understand to drop the Earthbind totem when he is AoE taunted? Right? No. Under no fucking circumstances could these guys get that into their fucking heads. They couldn't get it. All that needed to happen is Erebus would AoE taunt. You drop Earthbind totem, he moves away. That's it. And the rest of the raid then AoEs. That's all that needed to happen. And Genji's backing me up on this chat. And it was... Yeah, Genji was there. It was one of the most stupid things ever. And it was the first time I ever saw Erebus openly explode with rage. The guy is unbelievably calm. Outrageously calm. And he exploded with rage. He's like, I don't fucking understand how you cannot do this. It needs to happen twice in the fight. They would drop Earthbind as they spawned. The plants pop up, they spawned it. And they would drop Earthbind, so they couldn't be taunted. They would then drop it after they'd started to be AoE, because of course the DPS timer on Freya 3 was very tight. So the AoE would start assuming that the Earthbind totem would be dropped and kill the tank. They would do all sorts of crazy shit except drop this fucking Earthbind totem when it needed to be dropped. The worst one, of course, is that I just got silenced on my nature spells and cannot drop my Earthbind totem. You cannot imagine the frustration after maybe 200 wipes to hear someone say, I'm sorry, I got silenced, I couldn't drop my totem. It was infuriating. Absolutely infuriating. Coupled with the fact that we had lost some very good players is we couldn't kick them. And it is very bad for a guild when you cannot afford to kick players. It's really a bad situation. We then set about trying to convince one of them to give us their account details. so one of us could do it. Preferably me was the plan. The plan was to try and get the account details of one of these elemental shamans and then use their account to get the job done. One moment, I can hear something scraping my carpet. Don't touch the camera, okay? Promise me? Promise me you won't touch the camera. Okay? Okay. Yeah, Ben is trolling. Ben is shooting zombies. What a guy. Mate, I'm telling the story of Kopili and Goku fan. Do you remember them? Of course not. You weren't born yet. Okay. So we couldn't afford to kick these players. We couldn't do it. We just were unable to, which made Erebus even more angry. Then we started to lose people. It was the downfall of the guild. At the same time, because of the silencing mechanic of Freya 3, Resto Druids were very powerful. And I got to play Resto. And I out-healed a lot of the other healers besides Blubzar, who's the other Resto Druid. If many of you have seen Blubzar, I've used him in a couple of videos and spoke to him very regularly. Besides Blubzar, I out-healed pretty much everybody. It was me and Blubzar miles ahead because we couldn't be silenced. Therefore, we could heal through the silence while everybody else was silenced. While nobody else was healing, we were freely healing. Spamming that rejuve like a boss. Like a total boss. Can you go away now, mate? Ugh. Thank you. So that was... I got to play Resto. I was quite enjoying it for a while. And I did really well. And it annoyed Erebus even more, but because he wanted me to be a tank. No. I'm sorry, mate. You're going to have to go. You're just so frustratingly interfering. Go away. Oh, that damn dog's a troll. So I was playing Resto Druid at the time. I very much enjoyed it. And then I got bored of that as well. I just don't enjoy healing, as we discussed yesterday. And the guild was starting to die. I knew it was dying. I knew the guild was dying. And for an ambitious player who I'd reached a very high skill level in World of Warcraft at the time, it was really difficult for me to think what I should do next. For me, I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to playing with guilds that were beneath this skill level. I was done with the frustration of carrying really bad players. This had only brought home what it's like when just one or two bad players are in your raid. It really, really causes major problems. And Erebus was holding on, but he knew it was the end as well. He never openly said it, but you could tell in his voice that he was done. And we couldn't recruit, we couldn't repair the damage to the guild. And I think then in Rage Revolution killed Freya 3 and they were on Mimiron, so we'd lost our realm second spot. And a lot of things were flying around at the time, which I think somebody put it along the lines of, just because you had kill count lost above your name, it didn't mean that bosses just fell over. Which is a lot of people believe that because you have, be it method or kill count lost or whatever guild above your name, that bosses just fall over for you. That's not the case. It's not what happens. You still have to work really hard. And it was just unsalvageable. I essentially wanted to quit the game. I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to the guild. I just could not go backwards or join. I didn't want to join ER because that would spell the defeat of Kill Count Lost. I didn't want to do that either. Kill Count Lost was very much my home. It was the only guild, I'd say, even to this day, where I truly felt completely happy in the game. I was so happy in that guild. And I would never consider of leaving unless the guild was about to die. And it was about to die. That was the dead cert. So I started looking around. There was only one place to go. And that was up. Where else than method? And this was what I decided to do. Is I would apply to method. And if I got in, I either passed or failed in one of the top guilds in the world. And if it failed, I was freely able to quit the game. So again, I put myself in the situation, instead of telling myself that it was done with, Kill Count Lost was done with, then fine, that's okay. And I don't want to go back, so I'll just play the game casually or I'll quit there. No, I felt I needed to give something else a try to see if I could do it in order to prove it to myself. At the same time, I was very much aware that I couldn't take time off work to re-roll. There was no such thing then as transferring factions. or anything like that. So I'd have to re-roll. I didn't have time. I couldn't take time off work. I'd also sort of encountered various issues with Emma with how much I was raiding. Which often happens. It'll come up at some point is your partner will say you're raiding too much. And when they say that, they really mean it. Especially if they know you really enjoy it. Oh my god. She had come up to me and said, you're raiding too damn much. A lot. And I was raiding a lot at the time because we couldn't get Freya 3 down. Every partner is okay with a period of serious raiding. If you prepare them and say, look, the Ulduar expansion's coming, I'm going to be raiding pretty heavily for the next month or so. Just so you know. But we're now about two months in. Maybe. And I'm still raiding a lot. A hell of a lot. Raiding essentially every night. Except weekends. And you were needed to be there. Like I said, we couldn't afford to replace Kopili and Goku fan. So there was no chance of me having a night off. It was just a very, very bad situation. So I needed to actually, if I was being honest with myself, I needed to reduce my raid time, which would have worked if I just stayed in kill count lost. I also needed to focus a little bit more on work, because I'd been going into work very tired from raiding all night. Everything about the current situation was actually better for me in real life, but not in game. And at the time, my priorities were very much what is in game is better for me. So I applied to method. I applied to method. And they were quite cool, actually. It was the first time I joined method, and they were quite cool about what do you want to play? Because you would have to re-roll. At the time, method was working on Yogg-Saron No Lights, Alone in the Darkness, which had just been killed, I believe, by Stars. I want to say Stars would have got the world first on Yogg-Saron. Oh, stop barking. My god. I hate my dog sometimes. Okay, I'm going to have to put him outside. I'll be back in a second. Ah. Silence! Are you protecting me from the devil? You're gonna be good. I'm trying to do a show, Ben. Really, I am. I'm desperately trying to do a show. Stop trolling. Oh my god, he makes it so hard sometimes. He makes it so damn hard. Oh. Right click to taunt Ben. Yeah, I wish I could taunt him. He's protecting me. He genuinely believes he's doing me a favour by alerting me to passers-by of my home. My chair moved. I'm really sorry. Okay. So I applied to method, and they were very cool, actually, about what I wanted to play. Surprisingly cool about it. It was like, I don't know who replied to me. It was all very anonymous. The first time I applied to method, you had a forum where your application was, and you could only see yours, but you could see all the replies, and they were all by anonymous people. So I got asked the question, what would you like to play? I wanted to play a warrior, but at the time they had 3 warriors who were in every raid and always turned up. One was Sko, the other was Zavez, and the other was Raxadelic. And that would mean a 4th warrior, and they didn't need a 4th warrior. So warrior was out. Lame. I wanted to be a warrior. They needed warlocks. Ironically. They needed warlocks for Yogg-Saron Zero Lights. So they were like, well, we kind of need warlocks and hunters. I should have gone with hunter. I actually don't mind playing hunter. I really don't. But for some reason, I had more experience on a warlock from the Burning Crusade than I did ever on a hunter. So I decided I would be a warlock. I also had in my mind that I would be a pivotal role in getting the Alone in the Darkness achievement complete. So I said, it's fine, I'll be a warlock. And they were like, okay, you have a couple of days to reroll to get to level 70. They also asked, because apparently they were struggling for members at the time, are there any other good players in your guild? Because obviously you're leaving because the guild's in trouble, that you can recommend. I said, yes, there are. Are they players that you might think would join us? I said, I don't know. I honestly don't know. But Kill Count Lost is definitely dying. So I gave them some names. One of them was Drockthar, Blubzor, Zero, and the other one was Elfie, who is now known as Apco. And they were all approached and spoke to, and I spoke to them, and it was only actually Elfie, Apco, who said to me, I don't think I'm good enough for Method. And I said, I think you are. I think you are. I think you are more than capable. I gave him the confidence boost he kind of needed. He went, well, I'll think about it. I said, dude, think about it. You're good enough. I know. I could recognise Elfie's talent a mile away. Talent at the game, it exists. It exists. It generally does. And so I put those names forward, and they all got in. All of them. So 5 of us joined from Kill Count Lost. 5 of the best players, I would say, from Kill Count Lost, besides Erebus and the Greeks. Because they were, you got to remember, Erebus and the rest of the Greeks, as we called them, all played from the same web cafe. They were all at the same university, and they all played together. So one of them leaving wasn't really an option. And Erebus didn't want to leave. He wanted to go down with the ship, which was fine. So they all joined. Zero, who was a Shadow Priest and a very good friend of mine, he actually created the Preach Gaming intro, the dragon flying past the orange background. He created that. Very talented web designer. He re-rolled a Warlock as well, which scared me because Zero was one of the best Shadow Priests I've ever met, which is very similar to a Warlock. So I thought, he's going to shit on me. I've already, by recommending Zero, I have literally fucked my own chances of being in Method. I was kind of okay and not okay with that. I didn't want to go out and quit the game because another player from my own guild was better than me. That's not how I wanted to go out. That's not how I wanted to be. Blubzor would be a Resto Druid. Drockthar would be a DK, which he always was. One of the best DK I ever played with. And Elfie, of course, would be a Paladin. Elfie had a slight advantage over us all. He already had a capped Alliance Paladin, albeit a dwarf. However, Elfie's Blood Elf Paladin, who he played with in Kill Count Lost, had Valnir, Hammer of the Ancient Kings, the legendary healing mace. As pretty much the best healer in Kill Count Lost, he was the first to get it. He arrived at every single raid, was a brilliant player, so he had Valnir. So an agreement was reached with Elfie that he told me that they would allow his Alliance Dwarven Paladin to join Method, and then it had been announced that faction changes were coming. We laughed. I had to buy a separate account in order to play Method. I had to go out to the store and buy an extra copy of the Burning Crusade in order to level an Alliance character on the same server. It was cheaper than transferring all my Horde characters off Sylvanas. So I did that, and I was leveling. Then we did Recruit a Friend. I scrapped my level 20 Warlock and did Recruit a Friend with Blubzor and Zero. So we leveled ridiculously fast together, outrageously fast, up until I think level 60 is where the group XP stopped. Might have been level 765. I know it wasn't all the way till cap. And Drock leveled on his own, as he tended to do, because he was a bit of a loner besides his best friend, who was a hunter. And we got into the guild, but Elfie was raiding the day after because he transferred his Paladin. He was essentially raiding with Method straight away, so he was miles ahead of us. We were still leveling. I couldn't and didn't have the time to play the game as much as I said I could. In my application, I can play anytime, anywhere. I can get time off work, I could do this and that. Like you do in an application, you bullshit a little bit. And ultimately, I was really stuck now. I needed to level. I couldn't take the time off work, because I knew I needed more time off work when it got to the fact that I was capped in order to actually raid. I got Untriel. Untriel leveled my Warlock from, I think he got me 4 levels. I did most of the leveling. I got from 0 to 62 pretty quickly. I think Untriel did 62 to 66, and then I did the rest. So only 4 levels or something like that. I'm not saying like he played my character. Untriel has a strange way of leveling. He just likes killing mobs. He doesn't like doing quests. So I logged in, and he was Demonology, I think. He'd just been in one place in... I don't remember the name. Dustwallow Marsh? No. the marsh place next to Hellfire's Peninsula. It's not Terracar Forest. That place, anyway. He'd been there just killing mobs on his own all day. That's all he'd done. It got me 2 levels. Whereas if he quested, I'm pretty sure... Yeah, Zanga Marsh. So I was pretty sure that if he had just simply done some quests, he would have been miles ahead. But just likes killing mobs over and over again. Which annoyed me, because I paid him as well to do that. I was paying him to do that. And he come home and he's just like an extra level or 2. But he said the servers had been down and whatnot, whatever. So we then got to level 70. And we weren't allowed in the raids, which was really annoying. In fact, we were designated as Group 2. We were Group 2, me and Zero. Zero capped about an hour or 2 after me. And I was Group 2. Team 2 for life, forever Group 2. Forever Group 2. Yeah, it was the first experience of me being in Group 2. But Group 2 was the designated place for me and Zero to gear up. We would do things like Ulduar normal. Then we would have to make our own groups for Nax and Malagos and things like that. But we geared up pretty well. And luckily for me, and surprisingly enough, I was on par with Zero and even beat him on patchwork in exactly the same gear level. Fucking awesome. I beat him by, I think, 10 DPS overall. I mean, the top damage meter, we did a patchwork, a Nax 25 pickup group. The 2 DPSs were me and Zero by a long way, but all the way through the fight, it's just swapping names. And we are trying our ass off. I'm talking, we were so damn close to each other on DPS that we actually moved into melee range to reduce the cast travel time of our Shadow Bolts to make up for some difference. So I noticed he was moving in just to reduce the travel time of his Shadow Bolts, and then I did the same thing. So we were stood right next to the boss just to make sure the game registered our Shadow Bolts perfectly, and they had the least amount of travel time possible. It literally came down to that sort of competitive DPS. It really did. So ultimately, I get invited to Raid 2, and we go into Ulduar for the first time. And it's that weird thing when you don't know anybody in a guild, method or not, about whose voice is talking on Ventrilo. You just don't know who these people are. And there were things on the fight, like Flame Leviathan. So Flame Leviathan, Group 2 was doing most things on hard mode already. Besides, I think, Freya and Mimiron. They were doing everything else hard mode. So Flame Leviathan hard mode was notoriously pretty easy. And there was aspects of that fight I had never done. As being somebody who could configure my UI effectively fast in Kill Count Lost, I was always assigned a Demolisher, because I could keep up the Pyrite stacks perfectly, so we always had a 10 stack. I was very good at that, and so was Erebus, so we tend to do that. I had never been thrown onto the Flame Leviathan in my entire life. I sort of understood what happened as somebody who was interested, is that we had to swap positions with the Cannoneer, get thrown up, and then the Cannoneer guy would get back in. So I get assigned as a dot class to be somebody to be thrown on top of Flame Leviathan, along with Zero. So I asked Zero exactly how this works, and he gave me a summary, which was pretty much what I thought it was. You get in a Demolisher, you get thrown up, then somebody takes your place in the Demolisher while they do the grabbing of the Pyrite. Then you get thrown off, you get picked up by a bike, brought back to your Demolisher, and then you swap and get thrown back on again. Pretty easy. So I thought, cool, I can do that. I can handle that pretty easy. So I get thrown on to the Flame Leviathan and start multi-dotting and dotting everything up. I'm doing my job as far as I can wear. Then suddenly this voice appears over Ventrilo. Preach, you fucking noob, why are you fucking up the fight? I had absolutely no idea who this person was, and I had, for the first time ever in my history of raiding, I had no idea what I was doing wrong. And that has never happened to me in my life, and I can't tell you how I went from being pretty calm to nervous as shit so quickly. So fucking quickly. I was terrified. I was like, what am I doing wrong here? I'm just stood on the Flame Leviathan, and I'm dotting all the fucking things up, and there's dots from everybody else all over the other ones, and we're killing all the turrets. I was like, what the fuck have I done wrong here? What's going on? It's like, you're such a fucking idiot. Who is this fucking guy? This guy's a fucking noob. Right? Really raging at me. And I said, are you talking about me? And he went, you're the Warlock, aren't you? I went, yeah. He went, yeah, you. And I was like, I've really no idea what you're talking about. And then he started to proceed to go, well, if you don't even know what the fuck you're doing wrong, what are you doing in a method raid? Blah, 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 blah. It just went on in this big rage, this big tangent. And I was like, what the shit? I was like, I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I got thrown off Flame Leviathan. Nobody came to pick me up. No bike came to pick me up. And I was nowhere near a Demolisher. Anyway, I clicked my Demolisher from the raid frames to where I needed to be. And it was a long-ass fucking way away during fucking hard mode. So I start sprinting. I Healthstone. I do everything. But I fucking die. I died on the way back. And I was the only person dead in the raid. Shortly after, Zero died. This is not looking fucking good for anybody, right? For me or Zero. This is looking really bad. The other two got thrown up, which I believe were a Shadow Priest by the name of Safari and somebody else. I think it was 4 people. They all survived. They all survived. And me and Zero were dead. This is bullshit. This is when you first realise that even in the top guilds in the world, there are people who just don't give a fuck. Right? And still aren't the best players. In Group 2, we also brought along some casuals and stuff. But I didn't know that at the time. And the casuals tend to got things like bikes. Just pick people up and drop them off. In which case, they just didn't do it. So it wasn't my fault. But I didn't realise that till much later. Because I was under the stress and pressure of just being shouted at and died. So I was in a very fucking tricky situation right here. So I'm dead. I didn't say anything. And then we'd done so much damage to Flame Leviathan so quickly that he died shortly after. And we then went on to kill everything else. And then I got my next test. Now this is pretty stressful as well. If you might imagine, you're in a method raid and this is what happens. Is we get to Mimiron and they say, who's going to tank the head? Preach is going to tank the head. Right? I haven't played a Warlock in a raid since the Burning Crusade. And fair enough, during that time I did tank a couple of bosses like Leotheros. I did things like that. But in my first ever method raid, I was asked to tank Mimiron's head, which also needed to be moved and positioned by the Warlock, and maintain threat over all the heroic Ulduar geared alts that were already in there, who were going to go balls to the wall, nuke the fucking Mimiron's head. And I was in very barely full Lobby Nax epics. I was in bad fucking gear. Really bad. And I had to do this. And I was like, oh. But I like a challenge. So I was kind of excited and nervous. I knew what needed to happen. We had done Mimiron testing with Kill Count Lost with one of our Warlocks. I had seen the learning curve he'd had to go through. So I was kind of prepared for this. So I respect to a spec that would be more threat efficient. I think it was Destruction at the time. In order to spam Searing Pain, which was an ability that at the time had a lot of amount of threat associated with it. It was the Warlock Shield Slam, essentially. It did a lot of threat. So the head spawns. I'd done terrible DPS all the way up to this, but it didn't matter. If I could pull off the head thing, I would be fine. Nobody in the guild was expecting me to do good DPS in the gear I was in. So, lo and behold, we pull it. And I did it perfectly. In fact, at one point, I got asked to stop moving it away, moving it around the room, because we can out-heal the fire damage. It was like, oh, preach. It was actually one of the nicest comments, and I think it was... Who was it? I kind of want to say it was Dofty, who was my class master. And he's a mage in method. He kind of said, oh, you don't need to move it anymore. We're out-heal the rest of it. But really relaxed, like you did a good job. In fact, they were so relaxed, it was cool. So I aced it. I aced it. The first time I had ever tried to tank Mimiron's head on a Warlock for method in a heroic encounter, and I did it just fine. I did it really, no problems at all. It was pretty cool. And then we went on to kill Algalon and stuff, and that was awesome, because I'd never seen Algalon. I'd seen everything else. I'd never seen Algalon. Then comes Yogg-Saron 0, and we're going to try and kill this in the alt group, which was pretty scary. Pretty scary that I was being brought to this fight. Unfortunately, I'd leveled to do Yogg-Saron 0. They killed it when I was about level 63. They killed it. They got the kill. So we're going to try and do it in the alt group. Because in fact, the fight is very, very easy once you understand it. And we had 4 Warlocks in this fight. We had a Russian Warlock called Serge, who was a main member. And 1 alt Warlock, and then me and 0. So we had 3 new members as well. So we have 4 Warlocks, which is plenty for the Yogg-Saron 0 encounter. And we killed it. And I didn't fuck up, which is pretty cool. To go into Yogg-Saron 0 on a brand new class and not fuck up and do relatively well. Serge beat me on the DPS on Yogg-Saron's head, but he was heroic geared. I was above everyone else. I was above 0 and above the other guy. So I did pretty fucking good there. I was alright with that. That was cool. So that was my first raid. So no reason to quit the guild. I mean, I'm pretty happy with how things are going. I think it's going to be okay, besides this rage moment that was stuck in my mind like a fucking knife. Stuck in my mind. And then it came to next week's raid. Again, Group 2, forever Group 2. We go in, and it's Flame Leviathan again. And again, I'm selected to go on top of this fucking Flame Leviathan. And I was so nervous after I got told that. I was like, yeah, you're going up again. And I was like, motherfucker, because I did something wrong last time, and I don't know. And I don't know what it is. I really have no idea. So, what do I do different? So, I'd asked Zero and stuff, and he was like, I don't know. I died too. I died too. I don't know what we did wrong. I really have no idea. And then we tried it. And again, this fucking same voice starts blasting me on Ventrilo. But at this point, I had heard bad things being said towards other members. Drock was now capped. Blubzor was now capped and doing pretty well for himself. Blubzor was doing okay. They'd taken Blubzor, and because his gear was so bad, they had taken him. I just see some comments about the stream. The stream is in full 1080 and crystal clear on my screen, guys. So I don't know if it's your end. It looks awesome, and I'm streaming it back. They had taken Blubzor to do the Herald of the Titans achievement because his gear was so bad, and they didn't fuck about doing that achievement. And he got it, and he killed it. So he was essentially set. He was fine. But Drock was getting a hard time. One of the problems with Drock is he's too fucking good. Drock is too fucking good. And it's struggled with him to accept that, and I tried to tell him. And TOC had just rolled around. TOC had just come out at this point. I'd been battered again on Ventrilo about Flame Leviathan. And again, I didn't know why, and again, I died. Went on to do the rest of the raid fine. Did not know what I was doing wrong on Flame Leviathan, and could not figure it out. And that was really grating on me. Warlocks were shit in Trial of the Crusader. Terrible. So we never got brought to any progression raids. I suggested various things to Serge, who was the other Warlock. Hilarious, I'm not going to slag Serge off for any reason, but I suggested things like using Doom Guards on, I think it was the Faction Champions Heroic, because it had a Dispel. Is that if we did some stuff with Doom Guards, we could be really more effective here. And not only that, but we could eventually CC and Dispel a lot of things, because we had Fear, Banish, Death Coils, and we also could use our Doom Guards to actively be dispelling buffs off the enemies. All sorts of crazy stuff. And he was like, nah, it's a piece of shit. Lo and behold, he then says, oh, we have to use Doom Guards here. Blah, 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 blah. Yeah, fuck you. And then we were working on TOC, but I wasn't invited for any of the progression raids. I went into the normal, which was the alt groups, but I wasn't invited to any of the progression raids. My gear was still miles behind. So was Zero. So Zero wasn't invited either. They essentially just took the one Warlock who was fully geared, which is pretty cool. And then I did... Trial of the Crusader hard mode came out, and they decided to make 5 groups or 4 groups. I ended up in a group with Protec, and we almost got the world first in our very first run of TOC 10-man. World first Anubarak hard mode. We did it on the 2nd kill. We wiped on our first try. We almost had the world first on that, which was important at the time. Protec was trying to stress to us how important it was we got this kill, and made us all a bit nervous, I think, like Protec did. He made us all very nervous, and then we fucked something up and we didn't get the kill, which was really sad. It was really, really sad. I think it was the tribute to Insanity, or whatever it was. Do it in 50 tries or less, or something like that. And we got it, I think it's tribute to Insanity. We almost had the world first, and we lost it by 1 wipe, because he made people really nervous. And then once we didn't need to do tribute to Insanity, we just smashed it to bits. It was pretty cool. And then it comes back to Ulduar. And by now, I'm getting very unhappy in the guild. Very unhappy. I was still on trial, and my trial was sort of irrelevant because they didn't need Warlocks in TOC. And it was more the things that were happening to other players that was starting to get my nerves. Nobody really fucked with me, which is the weird thing. I don't know whether it's because of my personality or whatever, but at one point I raged. And it was during Flame Leviathan. Now, I have said and mentioned, and I kept it particularly quiet, just so you guys would notice, or not notice, is there was a 3rd new Warlock. There was me, Zero, Serge, and a 3rd guy who nobody spoke to. And I don't know anything about him. I can't even remember this guy's fucking name. Flame Leviathan rolls around for about the 4th time, and I get thrown on. And again, this guy, who turned out to be a guy called Zabok, I believe. I think it was Zabok. Started raging at me on Vent. And I lost my fucking shit. I lost my shit because After a certain time where you're trying to work out desperately what you are doing wrong and you can't figure it out and you're not a complete idiot, you realize you're not doing anything wrong. Right? Does that make sense? If you're desperately looking for something to go wrong and you can't work out what it is, there is nothing wrong. And I said, why the fuck do you keep saying that every fucking week as soon as I get thrown onto the Flame Leviathan? Why the fuck do you keep shouting my name out? What is wrong? Tell me what is wrong. I lost my shit completely. I was so angry that this guy every fucking week was berating me. I think it was Zabak. I could be wrong. It might have been a different Shadow Priest. It was definitely a Shadow Priest. But I was just like, what the fuck? What are you going on about? I don't understand what the fucking issue is. And then he said this. Well, aren't you the fucking warlock who's running around on the floor near my demolisher? And I went, no, I'm nowhere near your fucking demolisher. I'm on Flame Leviathan. What are you talking about? I was livid. I was completely so angry. I was like, I don't know what you're fucking talking about, but stop saying my name. And if you're thinking it's me near a fucking... I said, there's 4 warlocks in this raid. 4 warlocks. Why do you think it's me? And he was like, oh, and it turned out to be this 3rd guy. And every week this guy had been supposed to be thrown on Flame Leviathan and just hadn't bothered to get in the demolisher. And he was running around near the demolisher, taking heals from the people in the bikes, not doing anything. He wasn't doing a fucking thing. And he was like, oh, I thought it was you because you're a warlock. I'm like, there's 4 warlocks in this raid. Why do you think it's me? Anyway, he never said anything after that, which was pretty cool. But I was starting to feel very unhappy in the guild for a number of reasons. And it was like... Being in Group 2, this is... No, like I say, I want you to remember that this is Group 2. So this was a mixture of casuals and people's alts. Some of the alts were very, very greedy. And what started to happen was the alts would take loot and then try and sell it back to the new members who had re-rolled for gold. I'm glad to say these people are no longer in the guild, and I didn't realise at the time, but internally, it was, I found out later, is that the guild was actually having some internal problems with these various members at the time. And we didn't know that, obviously, as new members of the guild. We were just getting people take our items. Now, it happened particularly to Drock, which was a shame, because Drock, even in his low gear, was out DPSing the other DKs. I don't think he out DPS Razzie, but he was doing very, very fucking well. And when it came to Anubarak hard mode trials, obviously Warlocks weren't really brought for that at all, but DKs were extremely powerful at Anubarak hard mode. And they knew that, and they wanted Drock there. This is the way I took it from what I'd been told by Drock, so I could be wrong, is that the other players who were getting replaced by Drock were telling him that he was going to be kicked. And that his attitude was unacceptable, and, you know, he needed to pick up his game in order to stick around. But it was generally people who were getting replaced by Drock because he was that good. But Drock took it very personally and believed these guys. He was like, I have no reason to disbelieve these people, blah, blah, blah. And then he needed a two-handed weapon, an epic two-handed weapon, and one of them dropped in Ulduar. And one of the alts took it and then said that Drock could have it for about 4,000 gold. It's like, if you give me 4,000 gold, I will give you this weapon. It was tragic times. Nothing personally ever really happened against me. But I was sort of dealing with other people's issues. And it was getting me down. Like, I mean, I sort of led this group to join. And I never really... In all honesty, I knew I really didn't have the time to long-term stick it out. If TOC had lasted a very long time, like Wrath of the Lich King did, I wouldn't have made it anyway. At the time, I just couldn't do it with my job. And I was just like, ugh, I'm getting enough. Anyway, something happened, and then I left the guild, which gave me the reason, as we do full circle back to the point of this story, it gave me the reason to leave the game. That was what I was after ultimately. It really was what I was after ultimately. I would have stuck it out the first time if it wasn't for the various issues, and I'm glad they got fixed. The method went on to get the world first very recently. I think that is incredible, and I just happened to join at a very bad time. It was Apco who told me later is that things are much, much better now, and he said there was some bad things going on, but they've been fixed. It's fine. It's worked itself out. We just happened to join at a bad time. And it gave me the reason I was looking for. In some respects, I was kind of hoping I didn't make it. But Dofty and Protect told me my trial was fine. It was absolutely fine, which was kind of like, this isn't gonna shit. But luckily TOC didn't last that long, so I would have been fine through TOC. But ICC, I would have certainly come unstuck with the guild, and that gave me my reason to leave the game. It was what I was looking for in the back of my mind. I probably wasn't telling myself that. This is all on reflection, of course, but looking back, it's probably not what I was looking for. And I was kind of happy and feeling more comfortable with being in the guild. I definitely you started to find out some personalities. I believe there was a guy called Krathzy who couldn't take a joke. I don't know why. He just couldn't understand. It wasn't that he would get angry, but he didn't get jokes. And he asked me about some warlock spell that was a different talent spec entirely from what I had. And he was a protection paladin on his ult. I believe it was him. I could be wrong. And I said something like, it's right next to your Holy Shock, which is a paladin, holy paladin only ability. Completely didn't get it. And he started going, what does that mean? I haven't got Holy Shock. I'm protection. I'm like, yeah, that's a joke. And all these guys whispered me, like, who turned out to be the cool guys, who turned out to be like the nice cool guys. They were like, don't worry about it, that guy doesn't get any jokes whatsoever. And I was like, yeah, but that's funny though. It's that funny. He said, just don't say anything to him. He doesn't get it. And I was like, oh, okay. So then they had invited me to a little sub chat room, like their own private channel where I was allowed to joke and stuff like that. So I was feeling relatively comfortable. I was just kind of unhappy. And not even being brought to raids also was a contributing factor. It was the first time I'd ever been left out of a raid. Fucking hell. I've been in every single raid by demand since vanilla. And this was the first time it was like, no, we don't need you. And I was like, oh, God. Although I understood at that point why I wasn't needed. I was cool with that. But I just re-rolled. To be re-rolled and told that class isn't needed sucks. That's fucking terrible. That is a really bad situation to be in. And that was when I took a break. And I took a break for an entire... I want to say 3 weeks. I think it was 3 weeks until I was back. And we were... 3 weeks until I was back and organising plans. Because Zero left. Blubzar left. Blubzar just wanted to see again if he could... Blubzar wanted to see if he could make it in a Top World Guild. And he did fine. And then he left. Once he was okay, he left anyway. I think a lot of people joined endgame guilds like Method and... whoever, Paragon, just to see if they'd get accepted. Am I good enough to be in an endgame guild? And then they left. So Blubzar told me at the beginning that was his reason for joining. I'll join, and if I pass, I'm leaving. He said he started a tennis thing. I think he was playing tennis every other raid night anyway, so he couldn't have made the raids either way. Zero just left when Blubzar left because they were very, very close friends. So he left then, and Drock left after, before getting kicked, as he thought he was going to be kicked, which he wasn't. And Apco, fair play to him, stuck it out through that weird time because he was experiencing some weirdness as well, and went on to get a world first with them. So that was awesome. So that was a great thing. So that is the third time I tried to leave the game, and it lasted all of 3 weeks because I love this game. I think it's fantastic, and it was a great story as well. So there you go, an entire 3 weeks. Yeah, and then Zero, Blubzar, Drock, and a couple of other people decided we wanted to kill Arthas before we quit the game. The old KCL crew. You know how it is when your guild falls apart and then the old crew wants to get back together for one last hurrah? And that was what we did to kill Arthas. It was the same thing. It's very cliche, but it was fun. I'd like to say we did very, very well, actually. We only ever raided on a Saturday. I really run away now. He tells a story, it lasts 3 days. What a boss. So cool. Can I put them together for one long video? Oh my god. God. That's right, Genji, I didn't. Okay. Let's do... Oh, well done, the guys who stuck around at the beginning. It's been an hour and 15 minutes, but this show will go on because it's Friday and I've got your stories to tell. And my missus still isn't home. Oh, yeah! So it's boy night. It's boy night. Look what Genji started. Silence you. Okay, I've got a story. I've got a story that relates us quite nicely. Is my phone be ringing? No. Relates us quite nicely about Team 2. About Team 2. Now, it's going to be a little bit awkward for me to read this. I'm going to try and move my monitor. This one is called The Drama, sponsored by ITV Drama, which is, if you're American, it's like HBO. It's one of those channels that displays wonderful, wonderful, fictitious drama. Let's start off with a bang. Preach! The shit hit the fan in my last guild. And that fan was a large, high-velocity motherfucker. So when shit hit, the shit went all over the house, on the cooker, on the door handles, on the new guild carpets, etc. The problem arose when I, the guild master, had an issue with my bank account. That'll happen. One day my account turned up empty. Mother bastard, that sucks. And I didn't have the fundage to pay my subscription, like a baller should. Hey, life happens to ballers too. Turns out some fraudulent activity had been going down. Shit's going down. I like the gangster talk in this story. Anyway, a few weeks later, I had my shit sorted and got back online. Took you weeks? Sucks. However, to my dismay, the officers who I had kept in touch with via various mobile apps and the guild forums had taken it upon themselves to follow one in particular, who had arranged a guild merge involving another guild, joining our guild, and part of the agreement was that I gave up my guild mastery and find myself another raid team. Ousted. Absolutely ousted. That deserves a... His own guild taken from him from under his nose as soon as his back was turned. As soon as his back from turned, the ballers jumped ship. Not cool. Not cool. Well, well, preach. I gave them the finger and was put into Team 2. Oh! Guildmaster to Team 2 in a few weeks. Motherfucker. That sucks. Temporarily until their mage friend joined. After which I was back in Team 1. However, it turned out that Team 2 was a mix of former members and some pretty awesome guilds such as Method, Apathy and so on. And the new Team 2 took the progress a long time before. However, again another however, the egos were now here and Team 1 felt looked down upon by Team 2. We can't have Team 2 better than Team 1, can we? Because that would be bullshit. That would be bullshit. Team 1 has to be better than Team 2. The solution, of course, is to rename Team 2 to Team 1. But we can't do that. Team 2 laughed and ridiculed the members of Team 1 for their slow progress. Ego is a bitch, isn't it? Elitism in your own guild. And eventually it became clear that both teams wanted different things and saw things in the game differently. Talk about setting the sides. Arguments sprung up about going 25 and combining the teams, which fell through. It's a shame, that would have been cool. Which Team 2 didn't think a player was good enough. I knew that would be the reason. I knew it. It's like, oh, we don't want to join with you filthy Team 1 scrubs. Can't even kill this boss, noobs. Team 2 killed this shit ages ago. We don't want to mix with you guys. We don't want to fraternize with Team 1 and Team 2. Can you see how racism started? Pretty easy, isn't it? This isn't a guild. All they did was kill a boss quicker. So easy. Oh, Team 1, labelled. Why don't you put on your Team 1 shirt, you fucking scrub? Don't come near me in my Team 2 golden jacket. They would replace them with Team 2. When Team 2 didn't think a player was good enough, they would replace them without telling them and pass them over to Team 1. Ugh! Away with you to Team 1 with your scrubbiness. Take your scrubbiness away from me. How dare you bring your scrubbiness into my sight? How dare you think you can be a member of my group? When Team 2 were missing a player, Team 1 would offer a player of their own to fill in, but were shut down and told to stop trying to hand over shit they don't want. We don't want none of your shit players. We'd raid 9-man. It'll be easier. It'll be easier to raid 9-man than to even go near... Are you fucking kidding me? One of your Team 1 players? Ugh. Makes me sick. Makes me absolutely sick. Ugh. I can't even imagine what it'd be like to play with a member of Team 1. The final shit on those spinning blades was when I made it clear that in Mists of Pandaria, I will be rolling my Protection Warrior as my main. That's for you. Yeah. That's for you. Hairy knuckles and all. As my main tank and raid lead Team 1. You jumped from Team 2 to Team 1 like a boss. Like an absolute boss. And speed their shit up. kind of egotistical, but I get where you're coming from. Team 1 did have a main tank who caused many wipes. Due to refusal to reforge or spec properly. Why do people refuse to do that? It's only a game. I'll play it however I want. Just because I tank in spirit gear, I think spirit is fun. What's fun about being worse? I don't get it. I really don't. But the 2 key officers there, so Team 1 has got 2 officers, being women. A lot of woman bashing going on a Friday. I kind of want to get away from that. Being women, they felt bad kicking... Oh, you can't say that. This is what the line is, right? But the 2 key officers there, who were women, felt bad kicking him. They don't feel bad because they're women. These soft women and their gentle souls. Look at them. That's funny. Look at these girls. Can't do the hard work the man's got to. Can't just go around kicking people from gills with their gentle hearts and silky soft skin. This meant that Team 1 had 3 tanks. On the first reset of Mr. Pandaria, one of the main tanks of Team 2 turned up drunk and was immediately kicked. Fucking hell. Everyone's turned up drunk every now and again. I've raided drunk. Fucking no, I have. I've raided drunk a few times. I've been asked to raid after telling people I'm really drunk. You know when you come home and you just want to log in some WoW, but you're pissed, so you don't really want to do anything. Your guild's raiding, you've booked that night off, and they go, "Hey, Preach, what's up?" And you're like, "Hey, I'm here, you know, how's the raiding going?" They're like, "Oh, well, we're a spot down. Do you want to come?" You're like, "I'm really drunk, guys. I can't even see the keyboard. Really, it's took me 2 goes to get my password in. I don't know what the fuck's going on." And they're like, "Oh, come along anyway." And you turn up and you fuck up the whole raid, and then then you notice that the raid disbands like 2 tries later. It's all because of you being a fuck up. And you're just loving it. You wipe and you go, "Oh, we wiped, guys. It's no problem. It's no problem. Let's get back in there and try again. For the Horde!" And all that kind of bullshit. Now here comes the drama. You timed that really well with when I said, "Here comes the drama." Didn't you? Here comes the drama. They asked me to go and tank in Team 2 without consulting Team 1 first. Who asked you? Who's they? Who is they that asked you to go and tank in Team 2 without consulting Team 1? Surely some member of Team 1 or 2 was involved in this discussion. I told them quite plainly that I had 2 real-life friends in Team 1 and had raided a lot with other Team 1 members for the past year. Weren't you in Team 2? Plot holes develop. It's worse than The Dark Knight Rises. Why didn't you just flood the chamber, Lucius? You know when Bane gave you the controller and you could have just flooded the console and just stopped the whole thing? Why didn't you do that, Lucius? Just saying. And I would not simply leave Team 1 behind. Never abandon a man who's down. A former guild master. I like it. I like it. Never leave a man behind. Those friends then received whispers asking them to ditch Team 1 and move to Team 2. So they decided to scoop your friends from under your feet. I like it. Nice style. So that they could have me tanking. The shitstorm was back again and Team 2 left the guild. Bummer. Who gives a shit? Team 2 sounds like a bunch of assholes. Who cares? Team 2. You can't be labelled Team 2 and not eventually end up a bastard, right? That is one of the problems of being in Team 2. They had this short moment of glory, then ultimately Team 2 fell apart. That's what happens. If you're in Team 2, you're fucked. Your life's over. You're wearing a red shirt on Star Trek. You are bollocks. You are out of there. Those friends... but the worst thing was that Team 1 then blamed me and my buddies for causing all the drama. What the fuck? I said unto them. I like the use of the words unto. I'm really baffled by this situation. Team 1 and Team 2 don't like each other. Team 2 shits all over Team 1. Team 2 leaves the guild. Why does Team 1 give a shit? Community? Are you kidding me? These guys sound like fucking assholes. So, me and my buddies contacted a few other ballers through Real ID who were having slacking problems in their current guilds, and we said, "Fuck you and have a nice day," and migrated ourselves over to the Nether that is twisting. Oh, I like that. The Nether that is twisting to form something together and handed over the uncontrollable reins to those officers who had invited these problems in the first place. On Twisted Nether, we recruited for 4 days before getting 11 people altogether. At this point, Team 1 were at 2 out of 4, and Team 2 was still at 0 out of 4. I thought Team 2 left the guild. I'm so confused by this story, but it's pretty funny, so I'm going to continue. Tuesday night, 6 PM, we got the last class we needed to go raid. 7 PM, we said, fuck it, let's go try the bosses. 2 hours later, left the raid with 2 out of 4. The next day, reset day, we went back and killed the same 2 bosses within a few tries of the third. Team 2 still at 0 out of 6. Team 1 still at 2 out of 6. Thursday we go back and we take down bosses 3 and 4. Smash the other guilds to bits. So you did really well. I'm glad you had a decent ending to that story. I'm glad you did well out of that story. But I am baffled by some of the plot holes in your story. I would like some confirmation as to what actually happened. Because for all I did was leave, as far as I could tell, Team 2 abandoned ship, but Team 2 was still being tracked. Or did they leave to become their own guild and you're maintaining their label as Team 2? That I can understand. I don't understand why Team 1 cared that Team 2 left. I don't get it. I want to know. I want to know more of the story. I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. What about the man in the hat? What about the man in the hat? What was his story? What was he doing? What was he doing? Okay. Where is the other one? Okay, I'm going to do one more story. Oh, God, it's been an hour and a half. In fact, I'm not going to do one more story. I'm going to save it for next Friday because I'm not going to be able to get anything done this evening. It's pitch black and I need to walk Ben. End of story. That is the end of my story. An hour and a half daily is more than enough. Okay. Do my story, do my story. I can see it, I can see it. The Pally videos are going to be coming out. There's no content I have planned for Saturday and Sunday, so Paladin videos will be Saturday and Sunday. I might be streaming tomorrow, or I might be recording something with Ghost. We have an idea for something we want to film. So if Ghost is free tomorrow or Sunday, we will be doing that. If he's not, I'll be streaming some classic retro games, actually. So if there's some old games you've never seen before, I'll be streaming them tomorrow. But there you go. That is the end of story time 3, which took 3 days, and another one of your drama story. I promised nothing, Mr. Ginotto. I promised nothing. Have a good evening, balls, and have a great weekend. It is important. Remember that. Bye.